You want to know why you're not building muscle, and you're Googling titles like this across the internet to try and get the answers. I'll tell you right now, there are 3 things you are doing as to why you're not building muscle. And before you go down the route of saying, oh, it's my diet, I'm not eating enough calories and this and that. Diet is only a certain portion of it. Muscle is built in the gym. Do not get this wrong. People will tell you diet is 60% of the battle. I disagree. Muscle is built in the gym, and muscle is built through being able to lift more load with that muscle. So do not get that wrong. The food is a tool that is used to drive more performance in the gym, aka lift more load. If you can lift more load, you will in turn build more muscle. So the surplus you actually need to do that is not drastically great, maybe 200 to 300 calories above your maintenance level. Do not get that wrong. Now, when it comes to dieting down to peel back your abs, of course you need to dial in your nutrition. But if you didn't train properly and fix these 3 things I'm going to tell you, you'll just look a smaller version of yourself. The goal is not to get smaller and lighter. The goal is just to pull the body fat off and retain, and if anything, still develop some tissue. So when you finish at the end, you have the full product, the full package. And here's an image of what it will look like in 12 months' time if you don't take this advice. You will look exactly the same, just as frustrated, but you'll be a year older, a year closer to death, a year more decayed. So the first thing you're doing in the gym as to why you're not building muscle is you're not taking it through a full range of motion. Half reps will get you half the gains. The muscle can stretch out to a certain distance relative to that joint. So take the movement all the way through what that joint is capable of doing whilst maintaining good form. Distance traveled is a means of stressing and putting tension on a muscle. So if you're doing a chest press, bring your arm, instead of it being out here, tuck it in at 45 degrees, pull down deeper and get more of a stretch across the pec fibers. If you're doing a lat pull down, drive the elbow all the way down towards the hip. Don't come halfway down, come all the way down. When you're coming on the way back up, don't just stop halfway. Don't take the tension off the lat and onto the shoulder, but do come all the way back up. If you're squatting, get as much knee bend as you can. Whenever you're doing an exercise, you're trying to max out the range that joint will offer you. If you want to train your quads, you want to get your calf to your hamstring to try and get as much range of motion, as much stretch on that muscle as you possibly can. Now, of course, there will come a point where other muscles start to take over, and that is obviously the end of the range. I'm not going to go through every exercise under the sun and tell you where the end range of motion is. I've done that in many other videos, but range of motion is probably one of the biggest reasons why people don't make gains. The next one is you lift your weights like a fucking sewing machine. Bam, 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 bam. Rubbish. Fucking rubbish. When we're training for hypertrophy and building muscle, we're thinking of stretching the muscle with load. We're not lowering weight. We're not bringing weight down. We're stretching the muscle with load. That's what the eccentric portion of the rep is for. And then when you get to the end of the eccentric phase, there needs to be a still 1 second isometric contraction. Because for a lot of exercises, where you're using dumbbells, barbells, or any just dead piece of metal, because that's all it really is, that exercise is hardest in that position, in the lengthened position. Because if you think about it now, if you're doing a dumbbell chest press, you've come all the way down. That means there's a bend here. This has been stretched. So the only thing that is holding everything in place is the muscle. Because the distance from where the joints are is completely changed. Now it's different when you're at the top of the rep. The joints are stacked on top of each other. That means the load sits through the wrist, through the elbow, through the shoulder, and it's all in one nicely like symmetrical line. The joints are on top of each other. Just like if you were to hang off a wall when rock climbing with a straight arm, you could hang there for a hell of a lot longer than you could with a bent arm, because the bent arm is the muscle that's keeping you in place. Whereas with a straight arm, it's not, it's the joints that are stacked. So the point I'm making is, at the eccentric phase, that is where a lot of the gains are made. So you need to pause, separate the two movements. And then when you come to contract the muscle, that's what you're doing. You're contracting the muscle. You're not shifting the load just back up to the top. You're not just pressing the load up in one straight line. No, you're thinking about contracting the actual pec. You're thinking about bringing the origin and the insertion points together. So if it is the chest press, origin is here, by the sternum. The fibers run across, bang, 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 and they insert here onto the humerus. So when you're driving back up, you're thinking about bringing your humerus back towards the midline of your chest. And that is how you're going to actually contract the muscle. So again, every time you perform a rep, it probably needs to be somewhere along the lines of 3 seconds in the eccentric, 1 second in the isometric lengthen position, 2 or 1 or 1.5, depends on the movement, in the concentric contraction, and then depends on, again, the exercise. If the exercise is targeting the muscle in the shortened position, so the opposite to the lengthen, i.e. when the muscle's contracted, like a pec deck or some form of a cable where it's still tension at the top, you're going to want to stay in that shortened position for at least a second, but probably on some of them about 2 seconds. So your reps are going to be around 6 seconds, 5-6 seconds at least. So if your set is done within 2 seconds times 10, 20 seconds, you're way off, well off, and no wonder you're not making gains. Because how well can you contract a muscle if you're just going down, up within 2 seconds? Unless you're fucking very clued up to this game, obviously not, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it in 2 seconds. Like, it's just a non-starter. There is no way you should be doing that. So each set should last around a minute, and that's a lot more tension that you're going to be putting on. So not only are we going to get you traveling more distance with the load, we're now going to make it for longer. There's 2 very long levers that we're going to pull in order to actually make you see some change. Now, I'm going to give you a bonus tip. So we're going to give 4 reasons as to why your muscles aren't growing. The next one is going to be the arm path of the actual exercise. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let's say you're doing a dumbbell preacher curl. Let me find a video of that for you. Okay, so when you do a dumbbell preacher curl, what you want to do with the arm path here is align all of the working joints together. So the working joint is the elbow joint, that's what's moving, but you want to have your shoulder joint aligned and your wrist, so it's all moving in one straight line. So the arm path is clean. The function of the bicep in this instance is elbow flexion. Bend the fucking elbow, okay? So we want to make sure that the bicep is doing exactly that, not pulling us into the side here and out the way. Let me give you another example. Flat dumbbell press, and this would go for like shoulder press as well. Don't have your arms out here at right angle. Bring them in at 45 degrees because you can get more range of motion, deeper, and actually align the arm path along with where the majority of the fibers are sitting. If your arms sit out at right angle here, the reason it's so much front delt is because that's where you've aligned the arm path. That's where the movement is actually taking place and the majority of the tension. You've got to think where I put the load and then where I move it through, what is the muscle that is really taking the brunt of holding that load and arm in position. The example works well on a row when you've aligned what's the height of the cable that you're pulling from. Because if it's really low, then which part of your back are you predominantly going to be using? So here, arm path, bring the elbows in. That's going to work for shoulder press, it's going to work for incline, it's going to work for flat, 45 degrees. Single arm pull down. So if the lat starts here, origin, inserts all the way onto the back of the humerus, you want to bring the 2 together. So you don't want to be pulling with your elbow all the way out here, because how can you get that lat short? Instead, get a little cable and then think about driving the elbow back towards the hip, thinking about where is that arm path moving from. And again, keeping the tension on the lat, drive the elbow into that back pocket. And then the last point as to why you wouldn't be building muscle, honestly, you're not training hard enough. And I know everyone thinks they train hard enough. I've been there, but there is levels to knowing how hard you can train. Could you have got an extra rep? Like if I had a gun to your head, or if I said, your nan's gonna die if you don't get an extra rep, could you have got that extra rep? Most of the time, probably. Why didn't you get it? Because it's hard to push to that level. But why is it hard to push to that level? Because your mind's not really fucking in it. You're thinking about other things, you're distracted, you've just been on your phone, you've just talked to someone in the gym. Fuck all that shit off. Get your mind ready for that set. Know it's going to be hard. Go to fucking war with it and get ready to absolutely take the set to pure failure. You know you've hit pure failure because you'll go for that extra rep. You'll get not even halfway up, like a quarter of the way back up, and you won't be able to send it again for another one. Obviously, if you're on a leg press and you're by yourself, take that with a pinch of salt. Don't send me a video saying, I fucking prolapsed out my own arsehole because you said take it to failure. Even though I've basically been there myself. But be careful on some exercises. But again, this is why you've got to be smart with exercise selection. Don't do it on a flat barbell or an incline barbell unless you want to fucking foam roll yourself off with a barbell. Use dumbbells. Use a machine that you can take that to failure by yourself. You've got to train by yourself. Then program accordingly. Be smart with your programming. Can I take this to failure safely and be okay? What's the repercussions of when I fail? Oh, well, I just bring them down to my chest and that's it. Cool. So think of it like that. Log everything in the gym. Log your reps, log your weight. Next time, what did I get? Right, I need to beat that by an extra rep. Let's fucking get after it. Or at the very least, right, if your connection with that movement wasn't that good, put it in the comments. Lost connection on rep 9, so I didn't count it, but put it in the notes. Next time, go for 9 and try and get a better connection. Log and record that. That's a progressive overload. Do that session after session after session after session. Get stronger in the gym across all movements whilst applying the first 3, tempo, range of motion, correct arm path. You will have a fucking good physique. Because as the load, what's moving that extra load? If you've gone from here to here on a flat dumbbell, there's obviously got to be some muscle built for you to be pressing 80 pounds when you used to be pressing 60 pounds. So they're the 3 reasons, and call it a bonus tip, as to why you won't be building muscle. Fix them, and trust me when I say you will start to build muscle. Found this video useful, hit this fucking subscribe, like, whatever the bullshit they tell you to do at the end of a YouTube video. Always links in the description. If you want to work with us, we'll do all this for you, and I will literally grill you on how you perform every movement. Every week with form clips, when you send them in to me, we'll get your nutrition fired in on point and change your life in around 3 to 6 months, depends on how much you've absolutely abused your miserable body. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.